Hit okay again.
Oh, there we go. All right. Hey, I think we're
Working?
on. Are we on, John?
No, no, let's say
Maybe.
what's going on here?
Yeah, I think we're on, unless
Yep. I think we got it now. I think we got it.
well, welcome everybody. We had we're recovering, all of us are recovering from the 2 days of the treasure hunt all together. Um, we have myself, I'm Quinn, John. We're gonna do the Sol video for 2024. We also have a special guest with us to kick it off. We have Gage Larson, who is part of the winning team. So we're going to interview him here coming up in a few minutes. But anything, John, to kick us off? Start it off.
Well, man, I'm just trying to make sure that we're technically all good. So somebody leave us a comment if you can hear us and everything. And I'm going to share this out to my page and everybody share it out if you had people who are watching.
Hey, Gage, are we seeing it? Or give us a thumbs up. Okay, awesome.
It's there now. We're good.
That's like your official introduction to everybody right there.
Okay, boom. Well, welcome everybody. Super excited. Had a great year. So much fun. This was the most serious, like we had the most serious players this year, like by far. Um, like fun fact, Quinn and I took shifts. In the last 2 years, we went to bed after, I don't know, like midnight or something. Um, and we slept for, at least a few hours. This year, everybody was so active. There was so much going on that we just took shifts. And so I was up and talking with a lot of you guys. There were still hundreds of you out playing at 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. And I spent from about 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. just in downtown Vernal, just talking with a lot of you guys about the hunt. So much fun. I really enjoyed it. Excited to walk through all of this with you guys.
Yeah, it was a great year. Of course, this is our third year, and we're trying to make the puzzles as creative and interactive and difficult. I know there's some who jokingly, maybe not jokingly, say the puzzles are too hard. However, people are solving them. They're getting through them, and it's for $10,000. So we probably have to keep it at least this level.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny because I do think that in a lot of ways this was our hardest year, but at the same time, it wasn't solved any later.
Yeah.
We got some.
Well, why don't we jump in with Gage? We usually have a separate video to interview the winner and the winning team, but this year we decided to combine it. So let's start out with Gage. Welcome, Gage. So glad you could join us on this for the first few minutes
Glad to be here.
and share your enthusiasm for the win.
It was a great time. We've loved doing your guys' hunts every year, so it was a great time. Glad we could win it this year. Third time's a charm.
Yeah. So I remember, I think I met you the first year, but definitely last year, you were maybe top 5, top 3, I think last year.
Yeah, we were in that foot race there at the end, and we just didn't quite get to the right spot at the right time, and we just missed it by a few minutes. So yeah, it feels a lot better on this side of that than the other side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how,
Well, we had a foot race again this year, right?
Yeah.
it was so close. We'll get to that in this solve, but it was so close. So how did you hear about originally? How did you hear about it, or what's your connection?
Well, so I grew up in Vernal and I'd lived there for a long time. I live down in Utah Valley now, but we were coming up for a family reunion and I saw that they were doing that, the first one, the same day as the reunion. So I'm like, well, that'll be fun. I'll take my son out and we'll spend a couple hours. I didn't realize how big it was going to be. And so we did the first half and then went river rafting the next day. And so we missed the end. And I love solving puzzles, so I was hooked. So the next year we just planned, you know what, we're coming up, taking the days off, and we're just going to go do it. And we had a blast. So we just saw the advertisement for the first one, and we've been coming back ever since.
Yeah,
Fun.
you had shared during the like the winning reception. So half your team was from Payson area, and then the other half was here in Vernal. Is that right?
Yeah, we have me and my wife and my son. He's 10. We live here in Payson, and then my mom, my sisters, my brothers, they're all up there. So we just now it's our annual get together and take the days off and just have a good time with each other. It was fun.
Oh, awesome. Well, congratulations. So, man, these were some difficult, challenging puzzles. So, congratulations
Thank you.
on getting the rest of it. So, what was your maybe favorite puzzle? It could even be the hardest puzzle.
There were a few. I'd have to say this one I really liked. Blue 3 after we found on the radio. Um,
Oh, yes.
just
So, Blue
the way
Three,
it ended
Blue
up
Two.
being solved.
Yeah, Blue 2 was the radio, which led to Blue 3,
Right.
which was the riddle to get you up Dry Fork to that kiosk.
Right, because I had randomly like I'd gotten in the car to go look for the little dinosaurs to try and track those down, and I hit start on my car, and I hear, "For you outlaw treasure hunters, this might be useful," and I panicked because I didn't have my phone, I couldn't record, I couldn't write, I didn't have anything to do there. So I called my mom immediately. I'm like, "Hey, turn on the radio. We're gonna be listening to the radio all day until we figure out what this means." And we hadn't solved any of the blue track yet. So later that night, we finally solved blue 1. It pops up, and I see the thing about the radio stations. It took me a second, but I figured out that was radios. I'm like, I know exactly what this is. So I plugged in, got the riddle, and I sat there for a couple hours just staring at the riddle. Everyone had gone to bed. It was just me. 2:30 in the morning, and I realized, I'm like, well, let's look for Gibson's face, figure out what that is. I went to high school there, so I knew there was a Mr. Gibson, but it didn't seem like that was the right thing. So I came up and I found Gibson on Remember the Main. And so as I'm scrolling through Google Maps, I get to the mouth of Dry Fork and I see the shoe store there at the mouth of the canyon. I'm like, okay, we got a coincidence here. Scroll further, Enchanted Canyon. Oh, this is a little bit more than a coincidence. And I get to Remember the Main, and I'm like, okay, I gotta leave. I gotta drive up there. So I call my sister who's in bed. Nobody answers. I'm like, well, I guess I'm driving up there by myself at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I, driving 5 miles an hour past Remember the Main so I don't miss anything. And I come up on the info kiosk and I'm like, oh, hallelujah. I was right. I'm not just driving up here for no reason. And it was just that feeling was awesome when we hit that.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's so fun.
So
What
tell
was
us
the puzzle that got you stumped for the longest?
Blue 1. So the history moments until about I think we solved that one at like 9:30 p.m. on Friday. And I felt like we beat our head against the wall for so long for that one. And then the last green one, the churches and the dots, just because I went with the names on Google Maps and I should have gone with the names on the signs and followed my teammates' suggestions and driven to all the churches. So that's on me. I have to apologize to my team for that one. We would have had that way earlier.
Nice.
Man, well, again, congratulations. One last question. So after you had solved them all, we sent you the last riddle. Like, what was your thoughts going through your head? And by the way, and I think you know this now, but we had 5 teams within minutes finish all the puzzles at the same time. In fact, the first 3 were within like short, like five minutes. It was amazing. How close it became. So what was your thoughts running through? I don't know if you knew other teams were headed there too. What were your thoughts?
I had a feeling. So we got stuck on green 5 and we're like, well, let's take a break and look at the clues we've got. And so we actually got pieces of paper and had written them down so we could scramble them and figure out what it meant.
On the tokens, the wood tokens.
Yeah, on the little tokens. Yeah. So we had gotten those. And so we had physical things we could use. And so we've been working on that while finishing green 5. And we recognized that it said Sundance Kid, Butch Cassidy. And I recognized that it was, or between me and my sister, we recognized 40 point something, negative 109 point something. So we knew what we were going to get when we finally solved it. And so we figured out green 5, or the last one in the green line. And we're like, okay, we've got to go up to the cemetery to find the answer, because I couldn't Google it anywhere. And I'm like, well, let's just drive up there. I had sent my mom off to be driving around town, so when we tell her the final location, she can be halfway there. And we're sitting at the cemetery. We solve it. We hear the text this to the number, and we're like freaking out in the middle of the cemetery. People probably think we're crazy. We we solved it in the trunk of my car, like sitting there, and we plug it in, and it's Taylor Mountain Road. And my sister's like, "That's a long ways up there. Maybe we're wrong." And I'm like, "Well, that's 8 miles. That's close. Let's just go." And we're triple double checking the answer as we're driving up the road, and probably driving way faster than we should have been. So we'll remember that next year. Luckily, there was no highway patrol on the way up. Plenty on the way back, not on the way up. And we're just paranoid as heck driving out there. Every car I see, I'm like, that's another team. Oh no, that's another team. And we get there, there's people unloading their side by sides. It looked like they'd been there, so I'm like, maybe they're a team, but nobody's wandering around in the woods, out on the cliff, on the hill. And so my sister jumps out of the car in flip flops and is just running down the hill as fast as she can. And we get up there, and it's not like right where the dot is. And so we're like, well, maybe we're in the wrong place. And I was like, well, GPS is, it's not exact. So 10, 20 feet, and we wander around, and about 30 seconds later, I found it sitting in the bush. And that was one of the best feelings. Just finding that was crazy.
Oh, that's so cool. Super fun. Well, this has been great to interview you. Hope you and your family will do, we're hoping to come up with enough puzzles for next year. But hopefully you join us again next year.
Oh, we'll be there first in line again, like always.
Yeah. So those who made Gage looks familiar, he was there first in line at Robber's Roost to scan. I don't know what time you got there. What
we got there
like
10 to 7. 10.
So an hour. Oh, you were there 2 hours early?
Yeah.
That's dedication. That is so dedication.
Me and my son, we sat there for 2 hours and waited. So
that's great. That's phenomenal. Wow. So, question came in from Facebook, and I'm interested on this one as well. To what extent did you guys solve the puzzles totally solo, and to what extent did you involve the rest of the community, like swapping puzzles together?
Other than that's funny because other than the hints you guys gave out, we actually didn't get any information that we didn't already have from anybody in the community, except for the very last puzzle. We were working with another team. I was stuck. I knew they'd solved it, and I was fishing for hints, and I found out they were stuck on one, and they needed help. So I'm like, hey, and I texted her and I said, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and we'll solve these 2 puzzles. And so I gave her some hints, and she gave me, and we still weren't getting it. Like, we were just talking past each other. And finally we gave enough hints that we both got it within minutes of each other. And it turns out that was the team we were racing to the treasure. So it was,
that was a little bit of a risky move there.
Yeah, I knew where we were at, and I had a feeling about where they were at, but I'm like, it's our only shot because I'm getting nowhere with this puzzle. And so it was good. And she's a good friend. I've known her for a long time. So it was fun to compete, and we'll compete again next year, and maybe she'll come out on top this time.
Yeah, I think she was a finalist last year too.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years we've competed against each other. So
well, super. Hey, thanks for joining us. Congratulations to you and your team, which sounds like mostly was your family. Mm-hmm. And keep in touch.
Thanks. Have a good rest of the
Thanks a lot, Gage.
Thanks, Gage.
Well, we're going into the solve, so now you can hear how our mind got to the puzzles. See if you did them right or not.
It was fun to see. It's always fun to hear about ways that people solve the puzzles that weren't like quite what we intended, right? So I love the creativity and all of that.
Yeah, super fun. So I'm going to go ahead and share and get the slideshow going. Tell me if I'm looking good there. How do I do is it F11?
Yeah, F11. Yep.
What if F11 doesn't work?
You might have to click inside the box. Click inside your window and now push F11.
There we go. Okay, this is our solve video for 2024. And we do this often, but it's so necessary. We have to give a huge shout out to our sponsors. You can see them all there, but I'm going to read them because without this, it wouldn't happen, or at least it would be a lot less exciting. So Ashley Regional Medical, Vernal City, Uintah County Tourism, Uintah Special Service District 1, which is the rec center, the Heritage Museum, Strata Networks, Wendy's, Dusamus, which is John's business, Uintah County, Tri-County Health, Uintah County Library, Techris Design, the Regional History Center, Healthy and Active Committee, and that's another logo for tourism. Great group. So glad they're a part of this, and hopefully they'll continue next year. The hunt, most of you know us. It's organized by the three of us, myself, Quinn, and then John and Bridget from tourism. And we do work really, really hard to keep it very close, very quiet. And so it's fair. We want it to be fair for everybody.
Well, it's kind of funny because like even this morning as we finished, I was telling my family about all the puzzles because it's like I've been working on this since December, but I haven't even talked to you guys about any of this because we're keeping it really tight.
Yeah. Yep. Now you can tell your neighbors and friends. Well, this is the kickoff. We had a lot of fun setting up Robert's Roost, and having some fun with some music and announcements, and then let everybody scan to get going. Teams interacting there. It was fun to see that. And we just interviewed Gage and his team, Bridge 4. There they are at the site of the winning. The treasure chest was just behind them on the mountain. It wasn't that difficult to find. We didn't go way intense this year. There's a parking lot there on Taylor Mountain Road, and it was in a gully. There's a gully between there and the mountain behind, and up in one of those bushes was the treasure. Okay, we had 236 teams. Awesome. That is so many. It was exciting. This was a little bit down from last year, primarily I think because we have such great teams, and we asked them out of respect not to get more than one packet or register more than once, and they did. They listened. So I think it was probably the same amount or more teams, but just not as many registrants because they only registered once. And then participants right about 1,000.
Yeah, the other thing that I think happened this year is just the players that we got were so much more serious.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the first couple of years we had people who are like, "Oh, what is this?" and they kind of register, and then get scared off when the puzzles were hard. And now we've got a pretty diehard, pretty intense community. It's super fun. Big thanks to all of you guys who've made this such a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see the number outside of Vernal, and 31 zip codes represented. If they all reported, it was all self-reported, right? So this is what John and I see during the hunt as we're like trying to assist and help and answer questions. Or most often our response is can't say. That's our most common response. But so we see the teams and then the puzzles on the left and how many each team. So we can then click on those and see which puzzles they've solved and then puzzles which teams have solved them. That's kind of fun to keep updated and what it looks like. This was the packet this year. The number of items, there were 7 items in your packet. 3 of them actually got you somewhere. The others were just for fun.
Yep.
Let's just jump in.
Fun red herrings in there.
John, we're blue 1, okay? So we did label them, of course, and you all know this, the hunters. The blue sequence, red and green. So blue 1 started months ago started giving you history moments, and we did label them 1 of 20. I think a lot of people knew, oh, this must be something, and it was. So the 20 of 20 was the newspaper that you got. So the one on the left, and there was a little secret to all this. I think people realized, a lot of teams realized that it had something to do with the dates, and it was a little funky. After every date, full date, month, day, and year, there was a capital letter after it. So you can see where there's, in some cases, where there shouldn't even have been a capital letter. So I just kind of circled some of those reminder. And then no one got it before the timed hint. I was kind of hoping, I was like, hey, somebody theoretically could solve this even before the hunt begins, because they have everything all but the 20th. So you'd be missing one letter. But anyway, but nobody did. No one has solved it at the first timed hint. And this is a little bit of a funky calendar. It is 7 days, but it's extended because it represents the maximum size. If you added up all the calendars together, it's the maximum size that you could get. You know, if you had a Sunday the 1st would be here, and Saturday the 1st would be here. Can you see that on my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's great, because we'll be using that. And
so
if you had
Saturday the 1st,
Saturday, and there were 31 days, you would be here.
Yeah.
So it encapsulates every possible calendar configuration. And we did give a timed hint too, and I don't think anyone got it even before this, but we gave it, hey, look at the date, look at the capital letter, and do it 33 times. And then we started having people figure it out after some, a lot of thinking. And we did send out a third hint to show 2 examples. That bottom left, we went ahead and gave the letters with the dates on it. And so how you solve this, you again look at the date with the letter behind it, and you need the month, day, and year. And then you have to search every single one of these calendars and go in and find out what exact day in that configuration did that occur. So this one, I should have picked, this was just an example, but you pick in 1967, here's your calendar. You have to go in and pick the exact location. So if the date was, say, the 16th of June, you would need to put it on the 4th down on a Sunday. So you pick, again, you go through and the letter right after the date, put it in the right slot, and then you get all of these. Am I getting all this, John?
Yeah. Yep.
And so when you put them all in, this is what it should have looked like. Maybe you missed a couple letters, but you'd probably get really close. So it says present name of by spot of Amnesty Cult. So that was the message you're supposed to get with 4 blanks. So there's 37 total squares. You needed 33. And of course, then that's the riddle you have to solve. So the present name of by spot of Amnesty Cult, you have to research Amnesty Cult. It's Butch Cassidy's gun. And in one of the history moments, 10, it does talk about Amnesty Cult was purchased the Ashley Co-op in Vernal on Main Street in 1896. And the Ashley Co-op is right at Vernal Avenue and Main Street, which is now today Neighbors Thrift. So
that's a real bit of history there. So
yeah, that was fun to tie that together. I did have one group of that told me they didn't see the URL at the bottom, and so they actually went to Neighbors Thrift. They figured out the puzzle, went to Neighbors Thrift and searching all over, and anyway, that was, I'm sure, a little bit of frustration. So that got you to Blue 2. Do you want to cover this one, John?
Yeah, so we worked with the radio station. They were awesome. They played these messages all weekend, and so what it is the eagle screeches at the quarter after, and then Jack reveals at the half, and Fox whispers at 1/4 to. And so if you pay attention to those times, a quarter after the hour, yeah, on the half hour, and then at the quarter to these different radio stations at approximate times. It wasn't exact because for their programming and scheduling, they couldn't they didn't want to cut songs in the middle for whatever reason.
Yeah,
But
but we really appreciate
yeah,
Matt and all the others there at Evans Family to make this possible. This was actually a pretty big ask for like that's a big ask to put something specifically at a time. So we really appreciate them working with us on that.
yeah. So if you listen to it though, they had a message that sounded something like, "Hey, treasure hunters, this might be helpful for you," and then they just listed these random words which you could then use to fill in and answer this riddle. And so
Yeah,
after you
the green
after
words are what was on the radio, as most of you heard.
yeah, so they're just saying mouth, chocolate, boot, love, enchantment, Gibson's face, Jack's obelisk, 411, and you put that into the blanks, and it gets you this.
So we just walked
So
quickly through. I think a lot of people figured this one out, but enter the mouth. I'm sure you're thinking mouth of the cave, mouth of the what, mouth of the canyon. So it's Dry Fork Canyon.
yep. So then Chocolate Rock. This is the only one I think that wasn't on like Google Maps. So I'm not sure if how many people got picked up on that one. It's a common local landmark, but Chocolate Rock, and then so skip the chocolate and don't get the boot. The boot is Merrill Foot Lab.
And if you didn't get all of these, it still fit. Like you could even skip half of them and get it to the right spot.
Right. Yep. So bypass love and enchantment. So the
Yep. So
enchanted,
loving the
enchanted
tennis court there.
loves the tennis court.
And then I didn't know that was called Enchanted Canyon, but it's on Google Maps, so we used it.
So then I think a lot of the people that I talked to got that from this one. This was the kind of the giveaways. Gibson's face, because if you start googling, Gibson's face, Vernal, it's pretty easy to find this very popular painting up at Remember the Main. And then spared 254 rods. A lot of you guys know this now, but you didn't 2 days ago. A rod is a surveying measurement, and it's equal to 16 and a half feet or 5.5 yards.
We wanted to give some distance so you weren't wandering down streets or worse, like personal property. So gave you how far to expect to go. Yeah, and then Jack's obelisk. Jack is a common name for flag. So the flag obelisk or flag column, and then at the Union, of course, is that's the just right there is the location where Ashley Creek and Dry Fork Creek come together. And then stand at 411.
Yeah, 411 being like the number for info, right?
Yep.
Info line. If you came here to the little kiosk, the little info stand, and you look at the poster there on the top right, there's a handful of numbers. So on the website, we were asking you guys to enter in this code: old plus new plus elevation plus first plus new 2. And if you read through the numbers here, it's how tall was the old flag, and then the elevation there is the second number, and then the first flagpole was there in 1944, and then the new 2, the second new thing on this kiosk is that 2000 number.
Yeah. And this was a great puzzle. We didn't get a lot of inquiries on this one. It kind of went really smooth. People were able to figure this one out, which was nice. It was a solid puzzle. That led to Blue 4. This one you could have done online or had friends help you from out of town. This was a little riddle, a modern outlaw heist story about two characters who do their heist at a local Vernal bank, and then they escape, and you've got to figure out from the riddle. The answer is, what city would you start for to search for them? So as you this was the timed hint number one, which I don't think anyone got it before. Well, maybe so. I didn't go study that one, but in the riddle there are references to Victor, Echo, Lima, Bean, right? Romeo, India, Foxtrot. And as you read it, those probably would have jumped out at you. And that stands for VEL and IRF, which is Vernal and Richfield airports. And then you have to have the second part of information that ends up connecting is you end up with president names. So Andrew Johnson, John Kennedy, JFK, George Washington, Rutherford, Ulysses, Lyndon. People were getting this, so I think they figured out they were president names. And you go to the number of the presidents, so 1735, 119, 1836. It also, that ties in with the airport. So Vernal's, I'll get to that. So this was the second timed hint. Vernal's runway numbers, and this is your degree of a 360, but they cut off the last number. So the degree is 170 and 350, but it shows up as 1735 on into your runways. So Vernal's is 1735, and Richfield, if you go back, theirs is 119, right? And then so you're looking for then what city would be 1836. So you'd have to do some Google searching. I couldn't find it anywhere where it's like a list of runway numbers. So you'd had to go on Bing or Google Maps to go search for Utah cities that have 18 and 36. And it is Panguitch. And what I could see, there was the only one in Utah. That's why I picked it. Because there's a lot of them that are the 1735, and we couldn't use that one again. So the answer on that one was Panguitch. Anything with that, John?
No, I did. You can find Panguitch in Google though. When I was testing this, it came up pretty quick. You can't find that airport. So
yeah, good. So that was your blue completed line. Now we'll go to red one. So you got your packet.
Yeah, this one was kind of fun because again, we put up a lot of the cards. Well, yeah. I guess go ahead.
You're good. Yeah. So in your packet, you had 11 cards plus a joker with a QR code on it, and you're thinking, what in the world and why, right? Is awesome. And then the hint number one was business windows will help you.
We actually went out Thursday night.
Yeah, there were teams that figured this out before, long before the hint. It just connected with them. In fact, the first team got it within 20 minutes of registering.
And that's what I was going to say. I think this is another one where, since we put these cards up like Thursday night, I think there were some teams that were driving around before the hunt even started, just trying to figure out, well, what are these cards for? What's going on? This has to have something to do with the treasure hunt, right? And so I think some of them had a pretty good idea what was going on.
At least they knew there were cards.
Yeah.
So this one shows, we put them out in about 25 stores. Plaza Mexicana is one of them, Country Bear. We tried to spread them around down Main Street and Highway 40. Here's another one. This one, I think, was probably one of the more valuable ones in helping to solve it. This was Get Glazed, Get Grilled. And the way you solve it, of course, is each numbered card. I'll get to it, but Get Glazed, Get Grilled is 4 G's in a row. So you got 4 sevens, 4 red sevens. And so that could have helped on that one. So here are your 2 hints. The second one is a really hefty, nice hint. Just tells you right out, hey, these line up with letters. Most teams, after that were successful. So of course, in a standard deck of 52 cards, you have 13 of each suit. And that lines up really nicely with the alphabet. That's 26 letters. So, the originator of the modern day English alphabet and the Chinese who created the 52 card deck, they were waiting. They knew that in 2024, in Outlaws Lost Treasure, that this would connect. The two would come together. Right? Right, John?
Yep.
So
Did it
you've
just
lined
for
up.
us.
Yeah, exactly. So again, 13 letters, anything red was A through M, anything black, N through Z. And so you start putting it together. So that converts your cards that you received into some really strange, like probably most people, what I would suspect, went to a word search, plunked in the 11 letters, and it translates to nefariously, 11-letter word that kind of gives ode to our outlaws, right?
Yeah.
So pretty good. Again, I think this was the highest number of teams got this one. I think it was either this one or green one. That led to the most challenging puzzle of the race. Do you think this is the hardest one, John?
Yeah, I think it was. I was just looking up on your comment. I just pulled up on the dashboard. It was really close between green one and red one for the most teams, but green one there was 6 more teams that solved than
That one. So
we had
this
115 teams that solved red
was
one.
my favorite, but I also have to admit that it was there were a few hiccups, not like intentionally, but like this one was hard, very hard. So a year ago, I met and helped facilitate the artist. His name's Chris Peterson, and he came in to paint the mural. It was a couple of grants that made it possible, and one was the DNR grant to help bring wildlife images to all 29 counties in Utah. So this one was the one that was going to go in Uintah County. Again, very large mural, a lot of vibrant colors. And I got to know Chris a little bit. And as he was preparing it and drafting his sketches, I approached him and said, "Hey, we have a special request." And keep in mind, this was like over a year ago. And I said, "Would you be willing to put a star background and I give you some specific constellations to put in that would give a code for a treasure hunt?" And he was awesome. He's like, "Yeah, I'll do that for you guys. Yeah, I'll work with you." So I gave him all these constellations to put in and the shapes. He did take a little liberty with a few of them, which, and again, I appreciate Chris. It was super nice of him to do that. But it caused a little bit of frustration among the solvers. There was a couple of them that weren't quite the same as you might see in a book or something, but we had to use it. We could not bypass this opportunity. So this one was a year in the making. Your first hint, well, the first one is Large Pisces in Town. I think everybody figured it out right away, but they were looking
tons
for
of people down at that mural the whole weekend.
Oh yeah, it was so fun to watch. And then the timed hint, no one got it before that. Pisces is a constellation, again, capital P, capital C, and then V is a W. And I'll explain that here in a second. That was the scene Friday night. It was so awesome. I loved it. I sent this to the artist too and said, "Hey, your mural's getting a lot of attention." Then this was timed hint 2, and no one got it before this one either. So it was a hard puzzle. Like when no one gets it before timed hint 2, it was a hard one. So it starts coming together. These are one of the more popular constellations. Most of you figured these two out already. But you take, Ursa Major up in the corner, so that's a U. Taurus is a T, and I'll walk through. Our third hint was we probably should have given this as part of hint 2. We didn't know it'd be this hard. Read left to right, 3 lines, and I probably would even have added 13 constellations just to make it a little smoother for everyone. But we learned that. Oh, I was going to mention, and John and I've talked about this. With designing escape rooms, you can test this with groups and friends, and by the 15th, 20th group, you've refined it and figured out all the nuances and everything, right? But with this, it's like a one-time shot. So had we known, we would have given the hints a little bit different, but we learned. It's good.
Yeah.
So I'll walk
the other
through
thing,
really
the most interesting solution that I've heard and made a lot of sense was some of the different websites show the constellations slightly differently, right?
Yeah,
so there was one group that took that timed hint number 2 we gave out, and they reverse image searched the constellation to find exactly where we had gotten the constellations from, and
and then it would have came really. Yes, yeah. And it was
That's
hard.
why we have to make these puzzles harder every year, is because you guys start coming up with stuff like that.
Well, and I would have absolutely preferred to take really well-known. We used Ursa Major and Libra and Orion. I'd have loved to have made a word out of just those. And in retrospect, that's what I would have done, or we would have done. But we specifically wanted to spell something, and I was determined to do that. But so these are all the rest of the constellations. People were asking for it. The Valpecula was probably the hardest one, and sorry everybody, there are no W constellations, none of them, of the recognized official constellations. So had to go with a V, and then that's why we gave you a V as W. So you should have known there was a V that was used, just depending on how it matched up. There were 4 V constellations, and I picked this one, seemed like the most unique one, and in the Northern Hemisphere. He took a little liberty with one of them, but that was probably one of the harder ones. And then is Eculus? That one probably was hard too, but there are only 2 constellations that start with E, and we use both of them. So I had, couldn't be too picky there. Libra, the third one was Libra. I think people are pretty familiar with that one. Cancer, the crab, was the next one. Orion, super popular. I'm sure most people got that one right off. And then the M was the unicorn. It's shown differently on different websites. So hopefully people were able to figure that. Well, they did eventually figure that one. And then the bottom.
It sounds like there's at least 3 teams that did the reverse image search here. So we've got some clever
you've got comments there.
Yeah.
And then the bottom one, again, there's only 2 E constellations. The one of the mythical river, and I'm sure most people got that one. That's super unique. Like, what other constellation goes out long like that? And then I think this one threw some people and absolutely understood. And by the way, I put the whole bottom row. You wouldn't have known this. The whole bottom row were Southern Hemisphere ones. And so they're less familiar to us. Most people would say Southern Cross, which is true. That's the common name, but the real name is Crux, C. And we probably should have said, hey, use the official names. And then Norma is the Carpenter Square for the N, or the compass. And then Tucana, again, a Southern Hemisphere one. Again, I think that one's fairly, if you were looking at constellations, that would match up pretty well. And then the crosshairs there, that I think that's a kite, but ends in R. You put all those together, and if you didn't know it was 3 lines, it probably looked pretty choppy, but it comes up with UTVEL, not meant to be vernal. VELCOME. Change the V out for the W, as the hint suggests, and then center here. So I would have spelled center out, or tried to, but there were no more E's. So you have Utah Welcome Center.
You guys say that with an accent, right?
Yes, Welcome Center.
Welcome Center.
And if you go out there 24/7, the vestible's open, and right in the middle was the fish mural with the QR code. But what we did there, we asked you to enter how you got there, because people just are super creative and diligent. So they found, several teams found this QR code before they solved the puzzle and said, hey, where did we put the answer? Well, you have to know how you got there.
Yeah.
Which we're going to do more of with, future, because you don't want people skipping a puzzle. So they had to go back and solve it in order to know what the code was.
Yeah. And we had some people get here in really creative ways. I think my favorite was there was somebody who said, "Oh, this constellation looks kind of like a G, and this next one looks kind of like an O. Maybe go back to the fish map if you have it." Yeah. So that
All the way to
no,
the
right
big one.
there's totally fine. No, but yeah, go back to where you can see without cars in the way. Yeah. So it's this. Here, go to the next one. And one more. These ones right here. It looks kind of like Go if you look at it.
Oh, Go. Okay,
And
I see
so
it.
one group said Go. It says Go and then fish. There's a big fish there. And
Go
so they said
fish.
Go fish. And so they said we went to the closest place we could fish and we found the nearest like visitor center or info booth or kiosk or something. And it was the Utah Welcome Center.
They
So
got the
lots of
right
clever,
spot. Pretty creative.
yeah, lots of clever ways
So
to, lots of
this
clever ways to
was
get there.
the hardest puzzle. It was one of my favorite though. It took a year to make, a year in the making, and so we just couldn't pass it up. But we would have retold the hints on this one if we had had a test run on it. So that took you to red 3. This one went really smooth. We didn't have any inquiries on this one or struggle. I'm sure people struggle, but they figured it out on their own. So the image there, hopefully is a familiar one to people, or they drove around till they found it, and it came up with these 5 criteria, 5 stipulations. And so you find that same structure, the dinosaur, at the Chamber of Commerce building. And John set up top. Some teams had a hard time. They didn't know what to do. They were looking for all over for numbers. They knew there were numbers, right? Because it has used the 4 numbers in the correct order. So they're looking all over for the numbers and didn't look up. So up on top, you have 3 numbers on each side. And then, so I put it in a sheet here. I think we can explain it from here. These are the numbers on each
the
side.
5 rules.
Yep.
You're going to use
So
one number
5
from
rules.
each side, and you got to
We
do it
don't
in
need
the
to go
correct
through
order.
all 5, but you knew, well, with the first one, you knew one of them had to be a 2-digit code, right? To get 5 digits. Or you had to be a 2-digit number. So you know it was either 10, 11, or 12 was used. And then the one that really narrowed all of them, where you had to have add to a prime number. So that was hard to get, that narrowed a ton. And then you had to have the code number divisible by 2 other code numbers, which people thought was unfair because we used 1 as one of them. They thought that was unfair. Maybe so. And then the last one gave you the order, right? So first park, which was on the north side, so north is first. Then make a deposit, which was across the street at Grand Valley Bank on the south side, so that was second. Make a splash, then, which is on the west side, the hot tub area, and then tickle, which is Tickle Me Pink, on the east side. So the code ended up being 31217. And people got this one. They were bright. We have some just amazing teams in Bright. They got this. I don't think we had to help anybody, or well, we don't help anybody anyway, but we didn't get a lot of inquiries on this one. We didn't hand out any hints on this one. Then that got you to red 4. This one is also one that you could solve at home, or have somebody help you from a distance. This was a little tricky of a riddle, and it looked super complicated when you first come up. Like, what is this? But there's a few little keys to it, or like hints, if you will. One was the very top. It says keys, hold the secret. And then there's 88. and there's 88 keys on a keyboard, Star Spangled Banner, Francis Scott Key. And then at the bottom, you knew they were words because, or at least had a good indication because you were playing minus and pluses down at the bottom. So you knew they weren't letters. And then at timed hint number 1, I think some teams did it without the timed hint, but timed hint number 1 kind of was almost a gimme. But, you know, these are back here, these are the sequence 1 through 88 and beyond was the number of notes. The notes that you play were on the keyboard. So these were, if you numbered all the notes, red, white, and black, then you get these numbers. So, you know, the number 1, and I hate to sing. John, do you sing well?
Oh man.
Oh, say, can you see? So you go, you know, and so you can see the notes go up and down, but you know, you plunk 47, which I don't know what note that is, and 44, and then 40, then 44, then 7. And anyway, you put that in, and then you write the words next to each of them. And I didn't do all of them here. I just did the key ones and get us started. You plunk them in, then you pluck those words, put those words into the riddle at the bottom. And it ends up saying, our home proudly wave our flag. You can add an S if you want. Our home is blue, and on the we minus E, say minus S, so way, to red, free, swap a R with an L, so Red Fleet, on the way to Red Fleet. Cheers to our proof minus everything but PO. Star minus the AR. Post number. This was a little tricky, but people figured it out. Post number 11. So cheers to our post number 11, which is the American Legion on North Vernal Avenue on the way to Red Fleet. You could have found this on Google. I think a lot of people did. Big, bright blue building on the way to Red Fleet, post 11, and out front, and you can even read it off Google Maps. You go right out front, and the donor of that sculpture, cool sculpture there with the eagle and the bear, is Gary Smith. So that was the answer. I don't know Gary Smith, but he was the answer to Red 4.
That's
so
it's kind of fun because you know
American Legion.
I think this was probably one of our hardest puzzles, but there were some groups that got it just incredibly quick. And yeah, Gage is saying in the comments that this was his fastest solve. This was their fastest solve. They got in like 10 minutes.
Wow! So it just kind of clicked for them. Probably one of the biggest ones was if you could figure out what keys key meant, right? Like Francis Scott Key and keys on a keyboard. Well, cool. And that is the end of the red one. So 4 and 4. That gets us to the green. Green 1.
Yeah,
you want to walk us through this one, John?
I heard a lot of really good community feedback on this one. Lots of people really loved it because, as this little flyer says, this is, you know, bring or find a new friend. This is where your foes help you succeed. So how this one worked is you got one of 3 handouts in your flyer, and each of these handouts had a different line, you know, unlocked or you know, where you could see the key to a cipher. And you see on the side there's these little drawings of the Sega Lily and the vines, and you may or may not have picked up from that that there's a monument in the library.
That one.
I'm going through the wrong word here. Yeah, there's a monument in the library, in the what's that? The little park outside of the library where Riverfest was, where you guys all went to pick up your packets. That has these same Sega lilies and the vine drawings,
and probably
these words.
Other pickup, yeah, past, present, future was probably
past,
the big
present, and future. Right.
I'll go back to where we were. Yep.
Yeah. So you got one of each of these. You might have noticed that it says,
Oh,
the
I'll go
fourth
back.
Friday at 11 a.m. at, Market on Main, 14 West, Main Street. And if you did go into Market on Main, there's a little bonus clue for you, where we showed a little snippet of the actual monument. Uh, and we just reiterated it's where your foes help you succeed.
And we had Danielle there as the owner. We gave her a heads up. She didn't know how to solve it or like what it was for. We just said, "Hey, heads up. Would you be willing to hand these cards out? You're probably going to get a lot of people." And she did. They had a ton of people come in. She loved it. Here's one of the groups that went in and were chatting with Danielle and trying to figure out the puzzle and meeting new friends.
Yep. So then there were several groups who, like, they got with the three other people and they figured out each one of these little icons represents a letter and they got this cipher. But they are still like, well, what do we use it to decode? And they didn't notice that at the top and the bottom of their paper, which is what you should have noticed, there is actually the message that you're trying to decode. And you need all three ciphers to get this, or all three parts of the key to the cipher to get this. But when you
That was the hint number 2, by the way. Number 1 was
yeah,
the card from Market on Main. You could do it without it, but there was a hint number 2. That's the key to all the letters that were on there. But when you decipher,
yeah, it reads the past Orpheus, or
or
imperial,
yep, Imperial.
present vacant.
And it looks initially like what? Pastor, what? But if you break it up and put the words into it, so this is really how it kind of translates, kind of clean it all up.
Yeah.
The
So,
past,
and
yeah.
a little bit of quick googling, you can find that there used to be a Orpheus Hall, a little old theater, that was later renamed to be Imperial Hall. And if you go to the place where it was, it's currently vacant, but there is a sign up uh, that indicates it'll be the future home of Raptor Heights.
That was the answer.
A fun business we're excited to see come up here in town.
Yeah. So that was, and that one, I think a lot of teams got that one on their own.
Yeah,
It's a fun little
yeah.
group one. It is one of our favorite ones. This is another one, green 2, that again, smooth puzzle, really, really smooth, because everybody, I think almost everyone immediately understood these were dinosaurs and pretty quick figured out how to solve the puzzle from there. So you also had to note the 431 and the 609. Those are the front part of addresses. That might have been a little bit of a challenge for some of the groups. Those were addresses that if you went to 609, it could have been east, could have been west, but it ended up being west. At Ashley Valley Water and Sewer, next to a dinosaur, was the grid on the left that gave you the arrows. And then at the hub at 431 east, could have been west, but it was east, was the grid to show you the operands of how to do that. So if you combine them, oh, this is another one you had to notice, right? You had to recognize the dinosaur and pick up the address from that. You had to, then this the front part of the address. It didn't have to be on Main. There were 3 or 4 that were off Main Street. You're probably a little bit harder to find.
Yeah.
So this particular one would be represented by 355. So if you put it, here were some of the more unique ones or harder ones to find.
Yeah. But you drive to a dinosaur, you write down the address, and then you're gonna use that address, the number in the address, to do the math, to solve that.
Yep. And again, when we designed this, what was it? Maybe February we came up with this one, or March?
Yeah, probably about then.
since then, someone came up with a Facebook page that has them all. So if people found this Facebook page, it was a huge shortcut. But we weren't going to we weren't going to stop the puzzle just because somebody had a Facebook page. Great for them. So if you found the Facebook page, really fast shortcut.
Yeah, there's a few people in the comments saying, yeah, we use that Facebook, group of vernal dinosaurs.
Because these would have been a little harder to find. You've been driving a long time to find some of these here. It was a challenge of us putting it together, was you're reversing it, because you had to pick numbers that actually fit. And we wanted to put a few divides in there just so you know you're on the right path. And you try to get addresses to get to the point where it can be divided by another address twice. It's a challenge in and of itself. So you put the addresses in the squares, the operands. The first 7 numbers are added together, and then you divide by 23, gets you to 300. Then you add twice more, divide by 55, and then add minus add. Fun puzzle though. That was really fun, and people got it fast. They not fast, but they got it all on their own, and it ended up being 1445. Good, unique vernal puzzle that was really. This was one of my favorite because it was so clean. You know what I mean when I say clean, right? Like just kind of clear. People snapped it. They got it. It just and people had fun with it.
Yeah, well, it got people exploring the town and seeing something that's just kind of a unique thing for our little area. All the dinosaurs, right? It's kind of a fun thing that so many businesses have picked those up.
Yeah. Okay, next one. We're almost going on an hour here, so we'll speed it up a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a long video. So green three.
This was a big favorite of mine. We gave you just 3 GPS coordinates with no explanation or anything else. But if you went to those coordinates at each location, we had a monitor playing, and we had a lot of people sitting out in front watching those monitors and writing down every letter that came up, just waiting for the sequence to repeat.
I love it. Look at that. That's so fun.
Yeah. I should have done the math before we came here, but I'm pretty sure for those of you guys who who were waiting for it to repeat, I'm pretty sure that it would have taken years of watching that before it actually gave a complete repeat sequence, because it's totally random. It's totally randomized. So
there were people that solved it before the hint.
There were, yeah. For some people, it just made sense pretty quick, or they had different ways of stumbling into the fact that these monitors, all 3 of them are synced, even though they look random if you're looking at just one of them. But if you use the kind of team lift and worked with either other people in your group or maybe the same foes that you teamed up with on the previous puzzle, to get this one, then you could relatively quickly, within 45 seconds instead of 45 minutes of watching these monitors, you could get this message. Cuba was here in '99. Cuba was an actor in a movie a lot of you guys found. But I think you've got a slide for that, right? But yes, so Cuba was here in '99. Famous thing sign. Opened in '63. Tread on me.
This was the timed hint number 2, and I didn't realize we gave the answer on this one. we should have whited out the leading right there, so they would have to go there. Some people found the answer just with the clue hint, the timed hint, which our mistake. It was a bonus. Should have whited out or faded out the leading, because what we really wanted, and this was the reference to Cuba Gooding. He actually was in a movie that was filmed in the area called Chill Factor in '99. And so he entered a stairwell next to the former Southern jeweler there on West Main Street. And we did put this out on a city website with movies and TV shows. filmed in the basin. And it did show up in Google if you Googled the right things. And it even says filmed next to the former Southers, kind of give you a hint. And then if you go there, the tread on me, right? I took over. John, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're good. Yeah, but yeah, so that oh, the first clues they get you here, and then it's tread on me, right? And I know we had some groups like there looking around. It's like, what are we looking here? But if you look down at what you're treading on, you see this message there in the ground that says Sather's leading jewelers, and if you put that in, that gives you the correct answer. That's the correct answer. So you put it in, it gives you the next puzzle.
Boom, green 5. Ended up being one of the
Favorite.
3 hardest puzzles.
Yeah, yeah. This was a hard one. Yeah.
Most people, again, there's so many things we can do with these puzzles. And so this was reminiscent of the first year where we had what we called the dot to dot one. Remember that one?
Yeah.
And so some people realize, oh, this is a map. This is a map. And sure enough, it is a map.
Yeah, we've
here
got
was
people in the comments cursing green 5. This was a tricky one.
Yeah. So if you get the first hint, you realize it is a map. Those are the Highway 40, 191. And then up in the corner, count by letter. I hope that helped people. Some people were still confused by, this was a hard one. And how you solve it. I thought it was a fun puzzle. I really
think this is a phenomenal puzzle. And I think the groups it's the groups that got it, like they got it pretty quick, and it clicked, right? This is just another example of why it's important to have like different minds on your team who think in different ways, right? Because the people who got it, clicked pretty quick for them.
So this was timed hint number 2, although some people solved it before that, to let you know it's the Bible. In fact, I had many groups that said, your hints weren't very helpful. We knew it was churches. We knew it was Bible books, New Testament Bible books. So the hints didn't help. But you, a lot of people went to Google, which is great, Google Maps, and you could line up where the churches are. Some of that worked, but it was key that you actually use the sign that was actually there, because some of them, not all, but some of them had a different name on Google Maps as on their sign. And we only picked churches that had really clean, I keep using the word clean, but like real concise sign.
Well, just that they didn't have text that was in weird order, so you wouldn't
or
came next.
Or a name like they had 2 different names, one on the building, one on the sign. So we tried to keep it really clear that way. So I'll go through 3 examples. And so like this one here is on 5th West. It's Our Savior Lutheran Church. And on that one, it says 3rd and 9th. So you need to pick the 3rd letter. It's an R, and skip the spaces. Most people figured that out. And the 9th letter, which is also an R. So you pick 2 R's off of this one. The PHI and the CL, those are the order in which you're going to place them in the final riddle. And I'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a second. And here's another example, right? Landmark Baptist out on 5th North on the way to the dump. So again, you take the first letter, which is an L, and the 9th letter, 8, 9 is a B. And these are your order. We'll get to that. And then here's another example, 5th and 10th. This is where it was a little hard. People were like, hey, do I spell out saint or do I not? Well, it goes off whatever the sign says. So it didn't spell it out here. You got the U and the I. You put all that together with all of them, and you line it up with the books in the New Testament. And we didn't use the typical abbreviations. We didn't want it to be that easy. So like, I think Galatians usually like GAL, we just put GA. Ephesians is usually EPH, we just put EP, but they're all unique. And so you line up the letters you got from the first one and line them up. It might have sounded a little choppy because, I spelled that wrong. It's Lycurgus. Sorry, that's spelled wrong.
Yeah, just on the solver. On the puzzle, it actually has the G in there.
It's right. It's right in the puzzle.
Yeah.
We're running on low sleep, so that's spelled wrong. This is spelled correctly. So if you spell it out and cut it the right spot, and there are 23 letters. I must have missed one here. It's Lycurgus current neighbors, which is kind of fun. Like this is where it gets a little fun. Who is Lycurgus?
Yeah,
so introduce Lycurgus. If you very unique name, if you type in Lycurgus Vernal, you're gonna, you're gonna see it pop up. They spelled it wrong here. They had a GAS. I don't know. Maybe he used both. I'm not sure. But at least what's on his memorial and other places, it's with the U. But he was very influential early Vernalite, and in fact, he has a lot of posterity still in Vernal. Like if wow, I think the popes and Belchers and Collets, I think they're all posterity of Lycurgus. And so there's a little monument next to 7-Eleven Ranch Cafe with some information about him. And he was also the first sheriff and the fourth mayor of Vernal. So very influential. A little bit of history. So his current neighbors, right, would be in the cemetery. Now, here's where we had a really good debate as our team. We previously had in the rules that we didn't want people going in cemeteries. But we concluded everyone that plays this are so respectful. They're just really cool, good people, really well-intentioned. They just want to have fun with their family or friends. And so we opened it up this year. Some people noticed that the cemetery was taken off. Plus, it was green 5. We wouldn't have put this early because then you would have 200 teams going through and maybe slightly, maybe that is too many people. But by the time we got to green 5, how many solved green 4?
Oh, green 4 is 86 teams.
86, but how many solved green 5?
14.
Yeah, so we would only had 14 people coming in here. We thought that was okay. If we only, right at the very end, you have, a dozen or more teams that come into the cemetery respectfully. So if you go to the lot, and it worked out great for the puzzle, there's only 2 neighbors and it's all on its own, kind of separate from everything else. And it ends up being Hazel, spelled a little different than typical, and Cora. So cool. Thanks to them for being a part of our puzzles.
One of my favorite notes I got to drop here. The first team that solved this one solved it in the middle of the night, Friday night. And they actually messaged us, or they messaged me, and they said, "Hey, we know the answer, but I'm not going to a cemetery in the middle of the night." So
at 3 a.m. So they ended up solving, I think I saw like at 7:20 or 7:30 the next morning.
Super fun.
Wow, there's 3 completed. So those are all the 13 puzzles, if you will, that you entered in and solved. Amazing. We had 5 teams that completed all the puzzles, and it was all in a very close time frame. Amazing how close it was. As you were marching through the puzzles, you were getting tokens, these wood tokens, that we're putting in your collection. And they end up coming together at part of the final puzzle. And when you got to this point, you got a note that said text a number. And when you texted the number, you got this. And so it's congratulations, you got all the puzzles. Here's your final 4 wood tokens. And that has a little story there. There was a robbery of the Pleasant Valley Coal Company that was nearly $10,000. The Outlaws fled. The loot was never recovered. We kind of made this one up a little bit, that many believe it was hidden in the Uinta Basin. Box containing 19 wood tokens was discovered, accompanied by this note. We made this part up. That's pretty clear, I think.
Not accurate history.
Yeah. And so, it's last seen in a wood metal box. It's within a half day's ride to downtown, within 20 miles. use the tokens, you'll get within 50 feet and expect a moderate hike and hydrate. Please be safe. And if you put all your puzzle pieces together, one was a dark tiles, light tiles. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. So if you separate those out into sets and then you unsorted them, then it spells out Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy. And once you know those letters give you the order, and then you use the numbers, and it makes GPS coordinates. Plug these into your phone, Google Maps or something, and it's gonna take you right there.
We were so nice too. There's a big
Taylor
parking lot right here. Kiosk, like it's super convenient. And then you had to walk or run down the hill through the ravine and up on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like when John and I hit it.
At what was it, like 1:30 in the morning?
Yeah, it was late or early.
Yeah.
And it was in the juniper. That's juniper, right?
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it. And luckily some random hiker didn't see it. It wasn't near any trails, so it would have been super random.
Yeah.
And we had our stickers on there, so we knew it was for sure that one and not a fake. And there's our winning team, Bridge 4. Again, is congrats to them. Here's a little summary on the teams. We had 64 teams solve blue 1. That was a hard one. And we probably would have put that later, but it was in the packet. It had to be in the packet. So that was a tough one to get stuck with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the radio riddle. What's when people broke through that first one? Man, they moved fast. The radio riddle, the flag kiosk, and then the airport escape. The cards had a lot of good teams. The good numbers there. Red 2 was tough one. Weeded out some groups. And then 3 was pushed through, and then the red 4 is the piano with 14 teams solved that one. The quilt guild was the most solved, 121. And then the dinos, we got good feedback on that one. Monitors, that was a fun one. Really, people enjoyed that one. Sathers, and then the churches at the end. Again, 14 teams solved that one. This one was from last year, unless you changed it. Did you change this one?
I go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. I guess I didn't delete the ones.
Oh, okay.
This
so that
is
was
up to date.
last year.
This is new.
So this is this year's. So this gives you an idea. We have people that ask, hey, where did I land? Where did I land? Which is totally cool. You want to see how well you did. So these were how it lined up. Even if you did a couple puzzles, you were still in the top half.
Yeah.
And then as you kept solving, man, some really good teams. Super, man, just smart, creative teams that work together. And you can see how it lines up all the way down to the final 7 ended up solving all 13 puzzles.
Yep. So there's that can give you some idea of how well you placed and all of that. I think that's fun to be able to see.
What are we seeing on Facebook? I didn't bring that up.
Oh, don't have a lot coming in right now. Gage was just saying they got there at 1, or they solved the last puzzle at 150, and they got there at 205, or found the treasure at 205. Maybe they got there at 150.
Yeah, that was really quick turnaround. Super quick.
Yeah. Yeah, he's saying he doesn't think there's any way somebody would have found it randomly. So. So
John, you gonna do this next year?
Oh man. I think every year it's kind of like a wonder, can we come up with enough puzzles fueled by a lack of sleep, I got a handful of ideas. I've got some that I'm really excited for next year. I'm
I,
excited to tell Quinn
I
about them.
came up with one yesterday,
Oh
so we at
man,
least have like two to start with.
yeah, yeah. We've got a good year coming.
We're
Kayla's saying she's ready for the
people
winter
ask
hunt.
if we're going to do it next year, and I think our plan is yes. If we can come up with enough good puzzles, we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've got at least one more good year in us. Yeah, I think it's so fun. I think it's so fun. I was talking to a whole bunch of hunters about it this weekend. Like, uh, I'm gonna put my phone on silent because we've got someone who's in the live who keeps calling me trying to, and Andrew's trying to troll us. Uh, the anyway, I think it's super fun that puzzles and clues, escape rooms are it's like being built into the DNA of this town. Because like you walk through the town and there's a bunch of places like the big fish mural, where that was a puzzle that we used once a year and now it's there forever, right? Or the plaque at the T-Rex sign, the markers on or the lamppost stumps on Main Street and Aggie Boulevard. Like there's clues and puzzles that are all around town now. They're gonna be here forever. So if, we do this for a few more years. It's just going to be kind of a fun little little piece of history here. Oh, you're on mute, Quinn. You're Quinn. You're muted.
All the hunters that were at the fish mural uh, will forevermore look at that differently, right?
Oh, I really thought I put that on silent. There we go. Now it's out.
Well, thanks. This has been a fabulous year. Really good, fun group. The hunters are just such good people. Like creative. They appreciate, um, the unity that comes from it. They appreciate the work that goes into it, and that keeps us going. Like we were just so happy that this is a fun event, family friendly, oriented towards groups or friends or unity, and they have this wonderful bonding moment.
Yeah. Well, and that really is what's kept us going, right? So like I came to Quinn with this idea and we put together a great team, but like for me, we did it to as a way to market Red Exit and to just show to the community that we really cared about helping them make some good memories and enjoy this kind of entertainment, right? And all you guys, most of you guys know that Red Exit has been shut down almost since actually we were moving at during the last day of the last treasure hunt is when we started our
A
move.
year ago.
Yeah, exactly a year ago, and it, it's a lot of work to build a new escape room, and we were in the middle of building out all our new rooms and that sort of thing when personal life hit the fan for me and it got rough, and so we've been shut down, but it's like we still had to do this hunt because of how amazing it's been for the community. And I just some of the memories I've got just walking and watching everybody just so excited, and people are so friendly to each other. And so we did it even though we're shut down, and I really hope to put it on at least one more year. And we're gonna open back up. Red Exit will be back. So watch out for us. We're not leaving the community stranded. We're gonna be open soon,
Yeah.
just as soon as we can.
Well, again, great year. Thanks to everyone make it possible. Our sponsors, the hunters. It takes some coordination, and it's really interesting. You take like uh, Ted with Tetris Design. He helped us out with a couple things, but we couldn't say anything like, "Hey, Ted, help us out with this." We can't tell you anything else, and they're willing to do that, right? Putting cards in the windows. Hey, can we put this card in your window for what? Well, we can't tell you. And they're
Yeah,
like, okay.
we've got some questions coming in. We've got uh, Andrew wondering when we're going to take questions in chat. Gage is wondering if we can tell us which team solved each clue first. I don't know if we have that handy. Do you have that handy?
I do actually. Give me 1 second.
Okay, yeah. And while you're looking for that, yeah,
Yeah,
Kayla's
because
one got the
we gave cards, right? So
Yeah.
each team that solved first and hasn't got a gift card before. So some of the teams solved more than one puzzle first, but we only gave them one card. So we gave gift cards to the teams that solved it first. So blue one was first solved by House of Dragon. And I forgot to put a time on that one. Most of them I put times on. Blue two, which is I can't remember what they all are. The radio one was Whiting Treasure Hunters, and they got that one at 9:50 on Friday. So or 10:50. So they got that first one. That was pretty quick. Um, Blue three, which would have been the Dry Fork one kiosk, was Bridge four, the winner, and he did that at 3:30 a.m. on Saturday. Blue four was Black Iris and Friends, and they solved that at 2:46 on Saturday afternoon. Red one, which was the cards, was Team Taco, solved at 9:25 a.m. They got that like 15 minutes after the hunt. Red two was Lost Sheep, 3:20 a.m. on Saturday, so they were working hard on that one. That was the mural. Red three is the Mild Bunch, and that was 6:42 a.m. on Saturday morning, and that was the chamber. No, you gotta help me with the
The red three is the numbers on the chamber building.
Chamber building, and then red four was a group called La Pointe. Then the Lambs there, they solved at 11:52 a.m. on Saturday, and that was the piano one. Green one was Goats, and they solved it at 10:37 a.m. Friday, so only an hour and a half into the hunt. They got the Quilters Guild one, super cool. Green two was Black Iris. That was the Monitors at 11:45 a.m. Friday, so they got that
dinosaurs.
one.
Yeah.
What?
Green two's dinosaurs. Yeah.
Oh, green dinosaurs. Yeah, good. So Black Iris got that really quick, 11:45. Then the Monitors Green three was the Coffee Squad, and that was at 2:39 p.m. Friday. Green four was the Super Spreaders. They solved it at 3:19 p.m. Friday. And then the green five was the Basin Bounty Hunters, and that was at 7:20 a.m. on Saturday.
But he had it solved. They had it solved earlier.
Yeah, and so you see these times. A lot of them were, had made all the way through red, blue, or green earlier, but the final groups hadn't solved all of them, right? So
yeah,
it was interesting. It was good. It was super competitive.
It was really funny because at about noon, 12:30 on Saturday, there were three top teams, and each of them had one of a different puzzle missing. So one of the teams had all of them but green, one of the teams had all of them but red, and one of the teams had all of them but blue. So just this perfect split. It was really fun to see.
Cool. What? Any other questions? We'll wrap it up here.
Yeah, there's quite a few questions coming in now. Kale was wondering about the tech issue that we had the night before. I'd mentioned this. So Quinn and I had been testing for the last week or so, and we still had some things to finish up, and so we'd been burning some midnight oil. Um, but about what it was like 1 a.m. on Thursday, we really started noticing problems. But then we kind of noticed that before that, maybe we hadn't been getting the emails. Anyway, I did actually. Quinn, I haven't even told you this yet, but I did actually find out what happened, and it's actually a really old record in our DNS. They're the company that used to host us stopped forwarding it, so it's been there for it's an error that's been there for the last 3 years, and or something that should have been updated like 3 years ago, and they decided Thursday, somewhere between. I'm looking at my emails for when I stopped getting emails from one of my sites. Somewhere between 2 p.m. on Thursday and 2 a.m. on Friday morning. we had that issue, which I think was actually what caused everybody who some people couldn't really get into the site. I think that was all related. So absolutely unfortunate timing. Yeah, but at least we figured all that out. But anyway, so Quinn and I ended up like well, Quinn went to bed a little bit before me since it was a tech issue and
Just
it was kind of
before
last
5
minute.
a.m.
Yeah, I was up until about 6:30
6.
a.m. that night.
Working it out.
So, woo.
We got it. It worked enough to get
Yeah,
through.
yeah. Hopefully, any other years we do this, tech's much smoother. We've got a good plan, but it still worked out well. I think everybody was able to find ways, even if it gave them a few hiccups. So Hiram Quinn, we've got a chat in a question in the chat for you. Hiram's asking if we're gonna do this at the same time next week.
Yeah. Go do the first 2 years next week. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jackson's asking if it would be possible to keep this puzzles open till Sunday. Most of them are up there. Most of them we did keep open. I did take the numbers down from the chamber pretty quick this year, and maybe I should have left them up so people could keep solving. We'll definitely keep that
Yeah,
in
the
mind.
monitors we pulled down. You can do some of them still.
Yeah, you can do most of them still, but yeah, I think we will try to keep that in mind and
You
leave everything
you've
open.
kept the system up, right? People
Yeah,
can still
yeah,
solve puzzles, right? Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Well, is that a wrap up?
I I think that's pretty well a wrap up. I know there were some questions coming in that we missed. It goes pretty quick, but maybe I'll try and type out some answers to some of them as well. So thanks everybody for watching. We actually had quite a few people stay. We've still got 47 people on even as we're
Oh,
wrapping up.
awesome. Yeah. Well, we again, right? Like John and I, yeah, and Bridget, like we were the organizers, but we get so much drive from all the players, right? We will in the middle of December, somebody will run in and say, "Hey, remember that treasure hunt thing?" That's just like feed you and like think, "Hey, there are people that really appreciate and know kind of how much work goes into this and keeps us going."
Yeah, yeah. So help us out by saying thank you to all of our sponsors. Any of them that you get a chance to see, do business with, talk to. Uh, this is what keeps us going. So tell them thank you for sponsoring this hunt. Tell them how much it means to you. That's what makes it possible for us to do this. Um, and as we start making announcements for next year, like share those with your friends because it's valuable to our sponsors. It's more valuable to our sponsors the more people who come and play and
Yeah.
and it's just a lot of
Yeah.
fun for everybody. So let's do our part and share this around.
Well, thanks for hosting this, John, and we will. Maybe there's a few things to wrap up, but and then we start prepping for next year, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks everybody. And then Andrew, I'm gonna call you right back.
Hey, thanks a lot.